one thing that people need to focus on as well is when we look at our value proposition, we want it to grab people's attention quickly, and we want it to be clear what you stand for straight away, not having to think about, this long-winded thing. Like you look at Dollar Shave Club, a great shave for a few bucks a month, right? Very clear, grabs your attention quickly, goes, hell yeah, I want to shave for a couple of bucks a month instead of paying 50 for a refill of my current razors.
We're all part of this whole money game. This whole...
Welcome back to another episode of Beers and Business. I'm Abe Dearmer, CEO of Appsembler.
I'm Andrew Martin, CEO of Teamgate, and today we are talking value propositions. Obviously, we'll go through our normal sort of segments with the weekly wrap-up, but we're also going to talk about what is a value proposition, examples, we'll go through the elements, and then give you some hot tips on how to craft a value proposition for your own company, and then we'll go through our wrap-ups and questions. But
look at you taking the lead on the intro.
Always.
Look at you go.
Well, we
I'm
always
proud
seem
of you,
to fuck
mate.
it.
I'm proud of you. So he's like, Abe always fucks it, so I'm going to take
Abe
care of
always
this.
messes it up, so we'll just get through it, and then usually we start small talk, and then we get distracted, and then we just roll straight in. So thought I'd get it out of the way early, and then
nice, mate. Nice. Hey, it's a big week for you, mate.
It is a big week.
Big retirement, grand final. Oof.
Yeah.
Damn, retirement from footy, by the way.
Unfortunately, I still at work. If only. But yeah, last game on Sunday, grand final on Sunday. So playing Caloundra. We thought we'd be playing Noosa, but Caloundra came out and beat Noosa on the weekend. So yeah, not much changes for us. We just go out and...
How you feeling, mate? How you feeling?
Someone else. Feeling good. I think this is the first game I'm going to be healthy for about 12 weeks.
That's not a good sign.
No injuries, and I don't have the flu anymore. So
not a good sign. Go get influenza or something, mate. Get some pneumonia in your lungs.
No,
you need it to play well.
See how we go. But yeah, other than that, had the little fella's birthday on the weekend. So that was fun. We had about 30 children at a park.
Nice.
For his third birthday, and
it was superheroes theme, wasn't it?
Superheroes theme, yeah.
What'd you go as?
He had a pretty impressive. I just went as me, mate.
Dad, superhero, super dad.
He had a pretty impressive big Spider-Man cake, which we didn't even cut up. We just brought it home. So I've been giving birthday cake to all my neighbours this week because we just...
Why don't you just eat it, mate? Get those extra kgs since you're playing lock this weekend.
No need
for
extra
cake, weight mate. Behind you.
No need for cake. But yeah, other than that, just working. What about you?
Nice. So it's my son's 8th birthday today, little West. So
nice.
His birthday today. So did some stuff this morning, and then sent him off to school with a little birthday badge on, so he can go and get clout with all his friends, I guess, about it being his birthday. His birthday party this weekend, which should be a blast. Look forward to that. I think it's like 10 kids, 12 kids or something coming this weekend. So that should be exciting.
Nice.
And then this week has been pretty full on, launching new homepage, testing it out, going through. I'm looking at some of the leads that have come through the free trial, looking pretty good. Doing a lot of LinkedIn outreach and getting some ideas for a new campaign that we're looking at running for Virtual Lab. So pretty excited about that overall. So yeah, big week. Really excited, actually. I just got Alex Hormozi's book, so going to give that a read. $100 million offers. Heard it's pretty good, so interested to see how that goes. But I'm thirsty. So the beer that I have today is from Capital Brewing down in the ACT. Got their XPA. There's no real tasting notes on this, except it tastes
good.
like citrus.
Started drinking
very refreshing
recently.
Delightfully easy to drink. Tastes like an endless summer. There you go.
The XPA seem to be like the easy drinkers. I just want to show you
it's 1.5 standard drinks
before it loses its head.
Nice. Mate, you lose your head on the weekend.
Beauty.
Some bloke's going to take it off. I can see it.
I can try.
Is it being live streamed, mate? Where can people watch it?
It is, but I think it's a paid service, so no one's going to want to pay for that.
What do you mean, BWA Reserve grade? Everyone's going to want to watch that.
Hey, mate, there's all the games are on there on the stream. Yeah, all of our games are streamed each week, but it's a paid service. I think it's more expensive than KO, to be honest. It's ridiculous.
Hey, what do you think? Do you think this is a random question, just a random thought? Do you think that players are getting more careless with their drug use, or more people are willing to expose them for their drug use, right? Because you look at like recently,
I think it's the age of social media. I think it's social media, right? How easy is it for someone to quickly take a Snapchat and send it to a mate, and they think it's probably gone forever, but all it takes is someone to screenshot it or.
Yeah, I mean, like Snapchat's been around for a fair while. It just seems like
but like, mate, it's always been around. Fuck.
Do you think the NRL's is taking it more seriously?
When was I playing? I was playing at the Dolphins back in, when was that? 2011, 2012, before I joined the army, and we would get drug tested all the time. You'd get Queensland Cup players drug tested, and you'd see coaches like pushing dudes out the back door because the drug testers were coming in the front door. Yeah, it's been around for a while. I think, it's just coming to light. I think just in general, drugs are so much more common in social circles now. Like, it used to be so taboo, and now it's sort of just expected. Not expected, but it's so much more common. And then obviously that's crept into the professional space as well. So you got NRL players doing it, getting caught. Like, how many photos have come out recently? And like,
that's what I mean. Like, this just seems like there's a lot
Josh
more
Addo-Carr,
that are coming out.
He recently allegedly failed a roadside drug test, and then he's a couple of days later passed a urine test by the internal Bulldogs doctor. But why the police test hasn't come back yet? Why didn't if they really wanted to catch him, they'd do a hair follicle test. There's pictures that have come out with him with a bag of cocaine in his mouth. Like, is what it is.
A white substance, white powdery substance in a small bag.
Just a bit of baking powder.
Yeah,
he's got to make cupcakes.
Ice and cakes, mate. Loves ice and cakes.
But anyway, my beer this week. I've gone.
Sorry, just a random segue.
No local beers this week. I've gone with a Japanese beer. Don't ask me what it's called.
I'm not sure if this counts.
Yabisu, born in 1890, Tokyo. Rich and mellow premium beer brewed from 100% fine malt and select hops with Sapporo's traditional art.
Bless you.
I just sneezed.
There he goes again.
And again. Wasn't cheap. Well, I won't say it wasn't cheap, but it was on special. 1.4 standard drinks. Looks like a really nice beer. And it tastes like a very good beer as well.
Quite nice. What is it though? Is it a lager? Is it a
I don't know.
Draft or?
It tastes.
Looks a bit lagery.
Yeah, maybe it's a draft. It's a bit stronger than a lager, I'd say. But it's quite nice.
Beer connoisseurs over here. Yeah, this XBA is really nice.
Yeah,
as you can see, really light colour. Look at the colour profile. Beautiful. Pretty tasty, actually. Living up to the name. But let's get on with your learning of the week. What do you got? See, he's on mute. There you go.
There we go. I was Googling my beer to see if there was any more details about if it was a draft or a lager. My learning of the week is the importance of setting clear boundaries, and whether that's in like your scope of work when dealing with customers. Obviously, I deal with some, I won't say needy customers, but more hands-on customers. A lot of people using tech for the first time. So we go above and beyond pretty regularly, which is something that's sort of instilled in my team, but it can lead to some issues. So there's obviously the risk of being taken advantage of and these customers coming back and expecting these services that you're providing that you're probably not being paid for. It's like an electrician, right? If an electrician goes to your house and he's paid to install a fan, and then while you're there, the customer's going, I've got this switch here. Can you just throw this in? And then when you invoice them for the switch, like, why'd you like?
What's this? I didn't order this. I only ordered the. It's like, yeah.
So yeah, I've had a similar situations. Customer come on, we did some integrations for them, and then now it's sort of like an expectation that, hey, you guys manage these integrations, and when I need more integrations, I just come to you and you build them out for me for free. So yeah, just make sure you set that scope of work and those boundaries early. Obviously, it's fine to go above and beyond if you're willing to accept that, but just know that there's a risk there that those needy customers are going to take that as an expectation as you move forward.
And the problem is, if you're doing this at the start of a relationship, like if you're in a subscription service or, it's going to be a repeat client, if you set that standard,
right?
Yeah, if you set that standard at the start that, Andrew's just a walkover, I just tell him to do something and he'll do it for me, then that's how they're going to treat you for the rest of the time. So I think it's really important there to make sure that you do set those boundaries early and just be honest with them and up front. It's like, hey, don't be afraid to say, like, hey, this takes time away from me doing other jobs that are, revenue earning. So it's going to cost you $100 an hour to get this done. And do you want me to do up a scope of work? And they'll either say, yeah, do up a scope of work, send it over. Or they'll say, oh, no, it's not that important. Or, oh, okay, we'll do it ourselves. And like, what's the worst they're going to say? We'll do it ourselves, or don't bother. Best case scenario, they say, oh, yeah, send over the statement of work. You do it up, send it across them, and then go, yep, sweet, no worries, sign here, pay here, get the job done.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that precedent is just so, it's hard to overcome, right? Once it's set. If I was to go back to,
as we know from the acquisition of Teamgate, right? Like there was a big precedence about custom things that were being built and certain things like that. Discounts is a big one. Discounts are really hard. Discounts.
So then to overcome that, you got to work twice as hard to reestablish the boundaries and reestablish the expectations.
Yeah, it's like with anything with like, a dog, a kid, whatever it is, like when you're training it, if you let it get bad, if you let the dog get bad habits, jump up on people or pull on the lead, it's so much harder to break those habits than it is just to put the habits in place to begin with. Not to devalue anyone or refer to anyone as a dog, but we're all, at the end, primal species, right? And we all have that same way, I think. My one this week is reducing time to value. So this actually links in pretty well with your learning. Especially when you are looking at professional services or having that first interaction, whether that be onboarding with a customer. But looking at ways that you can reduce the time to value is essential in building trust, but also then allowing that relationship to foster. People think that, or get the impression that things move quickly and they feel like there's a level of trust there. So if you are, say if you're a tradie and you've got a list of like 10 things to do in a house, pick the easiest one that's going to have the biggest impact and just do that first. And just be like, hey, this is all done now. And they'll be like, cool, I'll come back tomorrow and finish the rest. And they're like, oh my God, Andrew was amazing today. He got through X, Y, and Z. It looks fantastic. Look at this. Can't wait for day 2. Instead of like, oh, I got halfway through this other job and they're like, how long's this going to take? Doesn't seem like they're making progress. So just try and go from the quickest to complete, biggest impact tasks down to the potentially the more lengthy projects that are going to be going on as well.
Yeah, and that ties in well with sort of today's topic as well. Like we're going to be speaking more around value propositions, but understanding customer pain points and what actually brings them value is key in achieving that kind of value, right? So what moves the needle for them the most and how can you get there the fastest to make that impact? And that becomes sticky pretty much immediately if you can provide that value early and within a time frame that meets their needs. So what do you got quote-wise?
Yeah, my quote of the week is from the great man Warren Buffett himself. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. So what I take away from this, Warren Buffett is a big value investor, made ridiculous amounts of money from value investing. Recently took all his stock, or half his stock, out of Apple, and they recently had a shocking launch for their iPhone 16, which saw their stock drop. So that goes to show that he's the oracle once again, knows when to get out. He'd probably buy a whole heap of Apple shares again now. But his biggest thing was it's okay to pay a premium price if you're getting the value that comes with it. And that links into our value propositions, is how you put yourself out there in the market dictates what price you can charge. So if you put yourself out there as an enterprise solution that's built for enterprises, you're going to get a better price point. If you put yourself out there as a low value solution that's down and dirty just to get it done, then that's the people that you're going to get in the value that's going to come with it. So it's all about understanding that relationship between perceived value that the customer has and price you can charge.
Yeah, nice. And mine is very, very similar. I didn't even look at yours, but mine is don't think of cost, think of value. And it's by John Spence, who was a musician. For me, that statement is, I always like to reverse engineer things. So if you put your mind in the mindset of the buyer, anything that you buy, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, and it ties back to like budgeting, right? Is like, is this bringing me value? Is it worth the cost? And if you know that your buyers have that mentality, then you can reverse engineer that to target that and make sure that you're providing value if relative to your price point, right? So we recently brought on a bunch of different new tools that we're testing out. One was around it's like auto scheduling habits and stuff in your calendar, which was good. But for the price point we'll pay, and it was just like it's not saving me any money. It's not saving me any time. It's not I can just do this myself through a calendar, setting out my
and
schedule,
probably be less
my
pissed
habits.
off. And it's like I don't want to do that now.
Yeah, and it auto creates it was actually just getting confusing, and I was like, this is a good tool, but the value that it's providing isn't really worth the cost. So we got rid of it. So yeah, I think it's good for listeners to both think in that respective when they're the buyer, is this bringing the value? Is it worth the cost? And then also if you're selling some sort of service, putting yourself in that mindset as well, is this worth, the price point I'm putting on it? So yeah, that's mine.
It makes me think of I don't know who said it. I just remember it's being said. Was it the poor man pays twice? And yeah. I think that quote's very double-edged. It's very consumerist where like, hey, you need to buy the premium stuff because it'll last longer. But I sort of flip between two things. There's certain things that I'm like, yeah, you buy the premium stuff, it'll last longer. And then there's other times where it's like, but I could buy 10 of these for the price of that one. One thing that I'm a big proponent of is like, I think premium brand clothing is a waste of time. Agreed. Because I think that like buying a $2 shirt from Kmart compared to a, $60, $80, $100 shirt from Myer, you're probably going to get roughly the same amount of wear out of those items. So I think it depends what you look at, right? And so if you're looking at something that's going to last, longer term, I definitely think of spending the money up front can be very valuable. But I mean, the value proposition to designer clothes that you buy from Myer, and this is where we start to get into value propositions, is not the same value proposition that you get from buying a shirt in Kmart. You buy the shirt in Kmart so you have a shirt in your back.
Yeah.
You buy the designer clothing like, Ben Sherman or whatever it's going to be from Myer because you want people to know that you are wearing a Ben Sherman shirt. There's a different value proposition that goes with it.
Yeah, and for me, like I've got an $80 shirt in my room that I bought from Myer, which has just fallen to pieces, and I've got, and it depends on your needs, your requirements. So for me, I always lose shoes. I lose thongs all the time.
I can bear witness to you losing shoes.
For me, it's better to buy 10. So Kmart, hot tip out there is thongs you can buy for $1.25. I don't know how they make any money. I just buy 10 pairs. Yeah. And then it doesn't matter. I've got a pair in my car. I've got a pair at my front door. I've got a pair at the back door. I've got a pair
Charlotte
everywhere.
Must love that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if I lose them because I got another pair. But the same thing with sunglasses, right? My grandfather gave me a very expensive pair of Ray-Bans a couple of years ago. I lost them that day. So I just refuse to buy expensive sunglasses because I just lose them. So, you can go buy the $10 ones from Kmart. They do the same job. And if you lose them, you lose them. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we?
But let's get into value propositions. Yeah. So, first up, defining a value proposition. So, what is a value proposition? And this is where I think a lot of people get really confused between the different statements that are out there that corporations have, vision statements, mission statements, things like that. A value proposition, a clear, concise statement communicates here's the key bit, the unique benefits and value of a product or service to the specific target customers. So don't think about it. You're not saying what it does. You're not saying where you want to be. You're talking about the here and now. What are the benefits? Benefits, not features. Benefits, if you remember back to gap selling, numerous times I talked about it. It's like you don't sell the features, no one gives a shit about it, or the value it can provide. So, for instance, we talked briefly about the benefits of having a Ben Sherman shirt from Myer is the fact that people know that you're wearing that shirt. So to its target customers that want to look like they have money or they do have money and want people to know about it, they wear those designer clothes so people understand it. I mean, I'm sure people have seen some of the Gucci clothes that get around. They're ugly as shit and no idea why anyone would wear them, but they cost a lot of money. So when people see someone wearing like this ugly Gucci outfit, they're like, that guy's got money. Anything else to add to that?
No, not really. I think people just, once you sort of get into the purpose of the value proposition, I think it becomes more clear. And without getting too far ahead of ourselves, you sort of want to shape or guide two elements, right? There's an element of internal. So you're shaping and guiding your own company. So, where do we want to go? What are we actually trying to provide? What should we be developing? And that value proposition is probably going to guide that. It's going to guide your sales or your marketing efforts. If my value proposition is around price or if it's around ease of use,
it should be themed into your ad copy when you do marketing, right? It should be themed into your sales conversations that you have.
Because that then leads into the next aspect of, yes, we're influencing internal stuff, but now we're looking external. So we're looking at our customers. We're looking at people in our ICP that we want to target. So that's going to start shaping your marketing efforts, branding, your copy on your website, the positioning of how you beat competitors. And then obviously in the long term, if your value proposition is around, ease of use, pricing, and scaling small businesses, if that's then who you're targeting and that becomes your ICP and that becomes your customer base, you're going to drive some sort of customer loyalty because you're delivering on that value proposition. There's no point going and having a value proposition and then, for me, if I'm targeting, and this is what really annoys me with a lot of my bigger named competitors, is they have a value proposition for like everything. They'll have a landing page for small business. They'll have a landing page for startups. They'll have a landing page for enterprise. They'll have a landing page for this industry, that industry. And
it's all the same product. They ain't changing it.
It's the same product. Nothing's changed. So these small businesses will go and sign up there, and then that company is actually developing for enterprise. And then they're like, oh, well, we're already stuck. We've spent this money, and you talk about poor man pays twice. We've had a lot of aspects where, they're paying twice, but they're paying a massive amount to these big name companies when it's not meeting the value proposition that they were sort of promised. And then they're leaving and finding another cheaper company.
And I think that's a really big point about driving customer loyalty that comes with it. So if your value proposition that you put forward to people is not, in fact, what your company believes, or the actions, like actions speak louder than words, if your actions towards your development efforts, how you treat your customers, things like that, don't line up with your value proposition that you're putting out there, similar to what you said about some of your competitors who say, with a small business CRM, but then they're focused on enterprise, they're going to have exactly that, high churn from people who are fed up with the misalignment of goals that they agreed to. And I think another key case is that there was there's a, like Salesforce, there's a lot of people that are leaving Salesforce now because they've talked so long about AI and how AI is changing the way people use Salesforce, but they actually haven't been able to integrate anything AI into Salesforce just yet, meaningful, I should say, into Salesforce just yet. So you've now got customers that are going out and just developing their own as they go forward, because they're like, well, screw this. I'm not going to stick around when I can just build something myself with AI that gets the job done.
Yeah. And people get sick of waiting, right? Like we just saw an acquisition recently and a lot of the old customers coming through making comments of why they left. And it was like, we waited 4 years for something that was promised, the day we signed up. And, same with Teamgate, right? If we position ourselves as, best value for money CRM, best customer support, and then someone signs up and they're waiting a week for a response, straight away that's misaligned, and you don't meet your value, right?
Yeah. And I think that's that brings it, like we talk a lot about the software industry and things like that, but if you look at the value proposition that you have out there for an electrician, the value proposition about being a professional organization that cleans up after themselves, and then you leave a massive mess, you don't respond to text messages or phone calls, or things are misaligning on the invoice, then that's going to be, that'll catch you out with your value proposition. People aren't going to recommend you to the next person. If you're, a cleaning company that prides yourself on doing the job right the first time, and then they go there and you've missed spots and things like that, then that's going to affect your value proposition and the promise, essentially the contract that you made with the customer as you enter into it. So I think that's really important that you live up to those standards. And really, the value proposition is what differentiates your business from your competitors. And so if you are in a competitive market, nailing down your value proposition is super important. We look back at the 22 immutable laws of marketing, right? First person to fly around the globe, everyone knows who that is. First female, everyone knows who that is. No one remembers what the second bloke is, right? It's important to establish yourself. If you can't be first, establish a niche, right? So we are the best at X. We support Y. And just get that out there. Like, if you're a builder in an organization, specialize in building like those weird, funky new age homes that people want instead of your standard cookie cutter homes. Because you're going to get people that don't want to use you because they just want a standard cookie cutter home. But then you're also going to get all these people with a lot of money who have got architects to design these funky homes and can't find anyone to build it.
And you're not going to be competing against the big builders that just do those.
And you're not going to have to price down and be competitive with your pricing because they're not going to want to do it. And you go in there, you build a relationship with the architects then as well who create these funky stuff. And you say, hey, just give me your business and I'll build it. And they're like, sweet. They know how you work together, things like that. So it helps you differentiate your business in what could be a crowded market.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important, especially for small businesses, right, to have that clear value proposition because, you know, we're a small business in the CRM space. I can't come in and compete with Salesforce and HubSpot and try to match them where they say, oh, we're the CRM for small business, we're the CRM for enterprise, we're the CRM for medium business, we're the CRM for this industry, we're the CRM for that industry.
And people start comparing like these enterprise level features with what you have. And it's like, yeah, great. If you're an enterprise, those features are fantastic. But for you as a small business owner, you're not going to have time to use any of them.
Yeah, and
because it takes you know who sets them up? A team of people, not an individual, a team of people. And so when you're sitting there going like, oh, these features look really great, and it's like, great, are you going to spend the 2 hours, 3 hours per week that's required to manage those things?
Yeah,
not going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think we spoke about it in we did a segmentation or ICP podcast where you need to stand out, you need to differentiate from your competition, but you also need to be attracting the right customers. If your value proposition is price, right? If you're going to beat everyone on price, you're going to attract people that don't want to pay a lot of money, and those customers tend to be the neediest. But if you're a builder and you, like you said, your value proposition is I'm the builder for everything, then you're going to have all these different types of customers. It's going to be really hard to target. It's going to be really hard to niche down. You're going to be competing against multiple different, competitors. So yeah, I think you need some sort of clear, concise value proposition, which ties in with who you want to attract, what customer base that looks like, what that ICP looks like. And then it gives you a way to differentiate from your competition. And then again, that just aligns your team. Hey, we're the CRM for startups. Perfect. Who do we target? We're targeting founders. We're targeting businesses that are less than 5 users. Perfect. Now, when we start building our marketing, that's who we're targeting. We're not spending a heap of ads or a heap of time writing blogs about enterprise. We're not spending money on ads targeting.
And that's the key bit, right? Business. You're not wasting all that time efficient. And resources.
Becoming efficient.
Yeah. You're not wasting all these time and resources towards that. Which I think is really, really important. And I know we talked about this before, right? But value propositions, they're not a slogan, right? A slogan is a catchy phrase that, you see on there. Like, oh, what a feeling, Toyota, right? Like, that's a slogan. It's not a value proposition. Like, the value that Toyota gives people is like, shit, they were valuable enough so terrorist organizations in the Middle East knew that they weren't going to break down on them when they mounted Dushka to the back, right? So there's the Toyota has this deeper value of it just doesn't stop. Like, it's your workhorse. Yeah, it's not like, oh, what a feeling. That's a slogan that goes down. The value proposition is way deeper than that. And when you look at the Toyota value proposition, I guarantee you it's around long-term value and reliability of their platforms, as opposed to, oh, what a feeling with Toyota.
Whose slogan I like? I've heard it a couple of times now, and every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, I like that one.
Is it yours?
No. What if? Do you know what it is? It's Aussie for travel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Every time I'm going to look to book something, I just type in what if. So yeah, they got me. Got me good. The other piece is mistakes, I guess, that people can make when they're coming up with that value proposition. And obviously, confusing it with a slogan, confusing it with a mission statement, but also if it's very focused on the business rather than the customer. And I've got a Teamgate example here. So when we first took over Teamgate, our big internally, like our team, the value here is our sales insights, right? It's the reporting. It's this amazing tool that you don't have to set anything up. You've got all these reports. So we tried to make the value proposition on that, and it didn't stick at all. And now, 2 years later, when we speak to our customers and we're bringing on new customers and we're trying to sell them on this sales insights thing, the value proposition isn't actually the reporting. The value proposition is there's no setup required. There's no maintenance required. There's no coding required. They just get in and start using the system. So the value there is actually ease of use. The sales insights are great, but it's the fact that they don't have to spend time building out reports. They don't have to spend time, maintaining all this stuff. So I think it's really important that when you're coming up with your value propositions, yes, look internal, but also it needs to be customer focused. It needs to be focused on what value or what problems are you solving for the customer, and that obviously links to their value, and it becomes more customer centric rather than business centric.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example there of how it evolves as well as you learn and grow. And I think that's a really key bit of value propositions is that the testing, the iteration, like the first one you have is not going to stick. And and here's a really funny thing, when you start a business or you're taking over a business or coming into a business, you have these preconceived assumptions about what the value is to the customer, and you go and you test those. You got to take it to market. You can't sit there and be like, oh, this is the value. When we took over 5-Serum, we were super lucky. We talked to, got countless amounts of customers in that organization, and we figured out what people valued as the customization, how flexible it was, and the custom reportings that they could build out. And it's like, okay, well, but what does that mean to people? Like, people say things that don't understand, like the secondhand notion that goes through their head, right, when they think about what that actually does for them. So I think that's really important to figure out as well. And the whole thing about being customer centric is really, really important, because although it does shape how you do things internally, it keeps the customer front of mind as you look at these value positions.
Yeah, for sure. You've got some examples here. Do you want to go through them? Should we analyze each one? What do you want to do here?
Yeah, my favorite one, and I'm just going to skip ahead and just say my favorite one. My favorite one here is Dollar Shave Club. And I think they've got a really, really strong value proposition. And the other ones here, like, they're okay. Probably PayPal is my second favorite one. But I really think the Dollar Shave Club, a great shave for a few bucks a month. So if you're a male who shaves or a female who shaves, I guess anyone that shaves, you realize how ridiculously expensive razors are. And it's absolutely razors. Stupid. Hey, even when you look at it, like, even the cheap ones are damn expensive for what they are, right? Really expensive for what they are.
Yeah, I suppose disposables are like one-time use.
Yeah, and so they're still really expensive for what they are. Like, so me personally, I've got a double-headed shaver, so it just uses like a single razor blade that you can insert and replace. I can get 100 of those razor blades for like $20. That's outrageous when you look at how much people charge, like Gillette, for their razors.
It's like $50 for a refill of Gillette.
I can't even remember how much. Yeah, but it's something ridiculous, like $50, right? And so Dollar Shave Club, they were people who went, you know what, this is fucking ridiculous, and we're going to go and start a company and just charge people bugger all to get their shaving gear. And it just took off. It absolutely blew up, and completely understandable why, because it makes it so easy. Because they're like, great, Andrew Shave, you fill out quick form. I went through their process.
Right? And it's based on time.
You fill out subscription. You're like, oh, how often do you shave? Once a week. Great. You probably need a new razor head once every 2 months. We'll send it out to you. You don't have to worry about a thing. You just pay us X amount of dollars per 2 months, and we'll get it out to you. Perfect. I shave every day. Great. You're probably going to need 4 razors a month. you should be changing your razor over weekly. Do you want some shaving cream with that? Because we can also send that out as well, right? And then now you've got this really affordable razor blades, shaving cream, everything sent out, and completely convenient. You don't have to go to the shops or think about it or go like, oh, I've run out of razors. You've got it all there. And so Dollar Shave Club, a great shave for a few bucks a month, I think is a great value proposition. And it speaks exactly what the customer's after. They know they need to shave. It's more of a chore than something that they enjoy. Because if you enjoy it, you're going to learn how to do like straight razoring or something like that. And you just have to shave, but it's too expensive. A few bucks a month, perfect.
Yeah, and PayPal's, I think you said PayPal was your second one. That's also a good one. So the safer, easier way to pay and get paid. Obviously, safer ties into security, gives you that sense of safety. And then,
well, the thing is with PayPal,
comes into easy use
because they guarantee all payments, right? So you can
risk-free,
like
right?
Yeah, and so I think when you look at PayPal, super important on things like eBay and those sorts of sites, because if someone sends you like something that doesn't match up to the description, you just tell PayPal and they just take the money back. And so, oh well, PayPal don't care. That's their value proposition, is that they just take the money back. And how easy is it in PayPal to send people money? I think for our fantasy football league, although only 5 out of 12 people paid you, I paid. It was so easy to do. I think I was even able to transfer my Australian dollars and send them in some obscure currency to you.
You did. I think you
so
sent
then
them
you
in
had to
Mexican pesos or something.
Yeah, I think we all agreed we are going to pay in pesos. So we sent it over in like pesos.
I felt rich.
And, got to your PayPal account and you just had to transfer it back from pesos to Australian dollars. Probably raised a few flags, but that's all right. But it was so easy, right? And a safer, easier way to pay and get paid, which I think is super good for a value proposition.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we should move through and go through like the elements of a strong value proposition. And we've already spoke on a couple of the points, but obviously the first one is, again, looking at a customer-centric value proposition is understanding their pain points. So, and to understand their pain points, obviously we still need to look internal first. So we spoke about this when we spoke with Celeste, who's the gap seller on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and she's legend. A problem identification chart is something that I've done before. It's an exercise I've done with my employees. You can get one for free if you just search gap selling problem identification chart. You'll get an example there, but I think we even posted one on the gap selling episode. But looking internal to, what are the features or not features, but what does your company provide, right? And what pain does that solve? And you could either do this by ICP. For us, we did a problem identification chart for 2 different ICPs, and the problems we solved for each ICP were completely different. So you can start there, and then obviously through that process, you're going to understand what is the pain that my customers are facing, what of that pain can we solve, and how do we solve it? And that's an excellent place to start to look at your value proposition. And then you can, if you want to expand it, look at your competitors. What, do they solve the same problems? Is there problems that you solve that they don't solve? And then, that's the money right there, is if you can provide something in regards to value that your competitors don't, and you're solving problems that your competitors don't, then you've probably found somewhere where you can definitely target and expand upon.
Yeah, I think it's a really good process to understand that and compare it against your competitors to see, well, what are we really good at? Because you should double down on the things that you're good at and leave the things that you're not good at. So if you're really good at, having a really simple, easy to use CRM, don't focus on how you can make it more complex. Focus on how you can continue to make it easier to use and easier for people to get into, right? So lean into the areas that are your strength and stick away from the places. Like for us at Appsembler, our big value proposition is that ability for people to enable hands-on learning inside our platform. And so if someone comes in and just says like, I want to put a couple of videos up and blah, 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 and it's like, but do you want like people to get hands-on in your product or anything like that? No, well, they're not really a fit for us. So we're not going to go out of our way to create feature sets that focus on that style of learning. For us, it's all about hands-on. So getting to that point, and it's hard to do. It is actually really difficult to do, to say, we're not going to focus on this.
Yeah.
because it's tough. Like it's a big because it looks so lucrative. Like you see a competitor or someone who's out there, and you see them. They've done, like, you look at Salesforce. They did really, really well on this system of record and really complex CRM, hard to use, really customizable. You need to hire a team of 20 developers just to get it up and running. But that's not the formula that's going to win it for you, especially coming into the market. That's not the formula that's going to win it for you. So I think it's really important to develop that comparison, that problem identification chart, to understand what problems you actually solve.
Yeah, and I think another place to start is, if you have the luxury, speak with customers. If you've already got a customer base, if you're not new to business, or if you're acquiring a company like we've had the pleasure of going through, that customer feedback and research is extremely valuable. And we've seen it recently. I won't go into too much details, but a company that we work with acquired a company, and they had a bad reputation for certain things, and the new CEO sent out an email, and his calendar's now booked out for 3 weeks because of ex-customers and current customers wanting to jump on a call with him to give feedback. So, that sounds like a nightmare, but in reality, if you've got a customer base that's willing to talk to you and willing to give you feedback, that's gold. That's worth its weight in gold. So also a really good place to start. Even if you're a tradie, ringing your customers and saying, "Hey, why did you go with me? What and why did you come back to me?" is another question. Is, if they've used you more than once, why? If you're an electrician, if you're Mitch, and you did a job for one person and then you went back, why did they choose to use you again rather than a competitor? Obviously you provided something that was to value there. What was that value? So another really good place to start. And
I think the important thing is there. So I have used, when I needed a skip in, there's this company in Bathurst called Nick's Full of Skip, and on their website they had it all set up so I could book it and pay without having to call anyone, go back and forward via email. Just do it all on the website, and I could order like what size bin that I wanted, choose a delivery date, and then you submit it all, you pay, they call you up and say, "Great, what time do you want it?" Tell them what time. No worries, just confirming, all good, see you then. Mm-hmm. Done. And you've ordered a skip bin. All the other websites was like, fill out a contact us form, which, we know that hardly anyone ever responds to them. I actually submitted one the other day for some topsoil for my yard from a local place that does, because I was like, I'll buy local instead of getting anything from Bunnings or anything like that. Do you think I've heard from them?
No.
I haven't heard anything.
It's probably disappeared, mate. It's probably gone.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, it's just those contact us forms are so used. So if you can go in there and guarantee that, like, all right, I've got it booked in for this date, you've satisfied your need, right? And someone calls you and just confirms it, no worries, perfect. And that's why I went with them. And then I was like, that's a great idea. So for the clean living, when she was setting up a website, I was like, hey man, what's the first step that you do when you do it? Always have to do a walkthrough so we can quote the job. Great. Well, let them book that in your calendar without having to talk to you. Yeah. How often do you have people call you? You miss the call because you're doing another job or driving or whatever. You don't call them back, or you call them back and they don't answer all the time. Well, how about they can just book it online and they don't have to speak to you? And then suddenly, like, all these bookings start popping up for walkthroughs. And she talked to one lady and she's like, yeah, I know I'm booked for a walkthrough, but I'm going with you anyway. And she's like, oh, why? And she's like, well, I already know that things are going to run smoothly simply by the fact that I could book this in on your website.
On your website with that, yeah.
She's like, I was so impressed with that I'm already there. And it's like, Jesus, that's great feedback, and that just happened like that, right?
Yeah. So making it easier for a customer to buy, right? There's so many
time to value
out there. Yeah, time to value. It like, if you're putting in 100 steps for someone just to contact you, and there's, we've done experiments before with even just with a contact form, making a contact form as simple as possible, or, signing up for a trial as simple as possible. If you make it really complex, there's opportunities there for your customers to fall out of the funnel. So yeah, I 100% agree. As someone who's gone through a lot of renovations over the last 2 years,
how much easier would it be if you could just book in a call with a tradie instead of playing phone tag for? Because people have busy lives, right? Book in a 5-minute, 15-minute call.
Yep, exactly. I'm going through it at the moment with the fence, trying to find a block layer. Like, how hard is it? You don't even have to do anything. The concreting is already going to be done. You just need to lay the blocks, and I'll tell you how many blocks. And they
Leave it till December, mate. We'll do it
can't give
together.
me a price.
We'll have a case of beer and set up
I
a
needed to be
fence.
I needed to be straight. I have zero faith in my own abilities to do that. So
Give it 6 beers, mate. You'll get plenty of faith.
should be right. Might fall over, but the next one is obviously you got to communicate it, right? So once you've sort of gone through and come up with your value propositions, or even if you've got value propositions you want to test, you need to communicate it and communicate it clearly. So put it everywhere. You know, we've got a saying or something we live by in Teamgate and Xenon is bang the drum. So if you've got a clear proposition, it should be everywhere. It should be all through your marketing. It should be on your website, probably in your H1. But when your customer comes to your website, or even if your staff come to your website, they should know clearly what your value is. What problems do you solve? So making sure that it's everywhere. If you're going to run ads and things like that, again, basing it off that value proposition to make sure that you're targeting the right people and you're reaching the right audience. So yeah, I guess the last point really to tie that in while we're talking about marketing and websites is social proofing, right? So this ties back to talking to customers. If your value proposition is honest pricing as a tradie would be fucking massive.
Imagine that.
Fair pricing, right? And Mitch is good. Mitch, in all honesty, Mitch is great. Like he kills it because he doesn't come out and go, oh, this person has no idea what they're doing. I'm just going to charge them through the roof. He's like, yep, this is the price for that job, and you know his competitors are charging 4 times that price. So, you know, if your value proposition is around price or honest, transparent pricing or something like that, if you've got customers that say, yeah, we came to you because your pricing was honest, get a testimonial, get some sort of way to social proof it, so that when someone lands on your website, the first thing they see is, you know, honest and transparent pricing. And then as they scroll down your website, they see a quote from Abe that says, we used Mitch to install X, Y, and Z. Extremely happy with his, you know, complete honesty and transparent pricing throughout the process. That's social. That's massive, right? They go, okay, it's not just someone writing something on a website. There's actually real people that have experienced this that I can relate to, and that is massive. And you and I have done a lot of testing around social proofing, and
social proofing works. There's no two ways about it. It is by far, regardless of what industry you work in, social proofing is it. Social proofing is the best. I think if there's one thing that you could ever focus on, is focus on social proofing. Focus on getting customer testimonials. Focus on putting them everywhere. Focus on like showing that value on your website as much as possible. But on the other side of that as well is that we talked about at the beginning, my learning of the week, and both of our quotes that we put in there is proof of value. So like show value early in the relationship. That is like so key. So show value early in the relationship. So that way people build that trust. And the best time to ask for that customer testimonial
happy
is straight after they've just received like their first dose of happiness. Because like initially if you're truly solving a problem for someone, there's this big like, oh my God, they just did this for me. This is incredible. No one else has been able to do this. This is the best. But then after about 6 months, it becomes like, yeah, they do it for me. Mm-hmm. Like they forget about the pain. It's right. It's why people keep having babies, right? Because you can't remember that distinct, like you can't recall the pain. Like you remember that there was pain, but you can't re-simulate that. The same thing happens with the joy perceptors that come, the dopamine hit that they get is like, I remember that it was great when I signed up for them and solved the problem, but they don't have that full hit of the dopamine that's happened straight afterwards. So you need to get in early to get those customer reviews, case studies, and put them absolutely everywhere.
Yeah. And I literally just set this up for a customer yesterday. So they're like a roofing and solar company in the US, and their process was very manual in relation to asking for surveys and then asking for Google reviews. And I said, at what point are they the happiest? Like where do you get an indication where they're happy or not? And they said, we do a walkthrough, which is when the customer signs off on the job, and then they ask for, you know, the final payment is processed. I said, that's where it is. Like, that's where you got to ask them. Like, it's got to be exactly like they walk through the job. They go, oh, wow, this is either amazing or it's not amazing. But then you're going to get that raw feedback immediately. And if the feedback's positive, ask for a Google review. If it's negative, you need to ask for feedback and how to improve your processes. Yeah, I think any business, if you're not asking for feedback at any stage, you need to be asking. And obviously the ideal state is to ask when that light bulb moment or that moment of value occurs.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Right. And yeah, super important. The elements that we look at with a strong value proposition, just to be clear with it, is that you need to focus it on the customer's pain points. Problem identification charts are great for doing that. Communicate the clear benefits and put it everywhere. Not features, but benefits that it's going to have to your customer. And prove that value early on in the relationship and get case studies, reviews, testimonials straight after that dopamine hit to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. Don't wait 6 months and go, oh, yeah, I probably should hit Andrew up for that review. Do it straight away. Get that review immediately.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the last thing we'll go through before we sort of start to wrap up is how to actually craft the value proposition. And there'll be some elements in here that we've already touched on. But the first thing, which again we've already touched on, is keeping it simple and clear. So you want whoever it is that you're targeting, or even if it's your staff, to be able to read your value proposition and understand what it means immediately, right? So if we go back to the Dollar Shave Club, right, it's, a good quality shave for a couple of bucks a month. Pretty straightforward. If yours is extremely like jargon and shit, right, building sales efficiency through the fucking AI efficiency or something, like, what does that mean? Like, your prospects aren't going to know, your staff aren't going to know.
Jargon's the worst for people to, because you get into like your own little bubble, and then you suddenly end up with this whole thing of like, man, why aren't people converting? Don't people get it? And it's like, I don't understand what you do, because it all sounds like just absolutely ludicrous. It's just this word vomit that's all over.
Yeah, and that rings true through like everything, right? Like your website copy, your call to actions, like just make everything simple and clear and understandable, right? It's got to grab attention quickly, but the biggest thing is you need people to understand it, and you need the audience that you're targeting to understand it. If you're, for me, if I'm targeting people that are probably moving into the CRM space for the first time, if I'm using technical sales terms or technical CRM terms, they're not going to understand it, because it's, their first exposure to this environment.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like the biggest problem that people make is the whole jargon piece and putting it in there. I think that one thing that people need to focus on as well is when we look at our value proposition, we want it to grab people's attention quickly, and we want it to be clear what you stand for straight away, not having to think about this long-winded thing. Like, you look at Dollar Shave Club, a great shave for a few bucks a month, right? Very clear, grabs your attention quickly, goes, hell yeah, I want to shave for a couple of bucks a month instead of paying 50 for a refill of my current razors. And when you look at that as well, it's like, it's not a specific component. Like, everyone understands what that means. Girlfriends who could be buying their boyfriend a present could buy them a Dollar Shave Club present because they understand what it means. Right? They know what it is, and it's easy to retain that knowledge and recall it as well. And I think that's a really big part. And when you start to use jargon, which is previously what we talked about, is people have to think about, what does that acronym mean? What is that specifically referring to? And it doesn't resonate with a broad audience. Hard to recall, like, what was that thing again? I can't remember it.
And decision fatigue as well, right? Because you're just like, what does this mean? Like, if it's not clear quickly, like, what's the attention span now? Like, it's gone. It's see you later. I don't know what this means. I'm moving on. Whereas if you read, a good shave for a couple of bucks a month, it's pretty clear what it is. Do I want this? Yes or no? You can still move on, but at least you know what you're moving on from, rather than being completely confused and not understanding what it means.
And here's the other part as well, is that one way that I like to test different value propositions is when you're on call, if you have the luxury, when you're on calls with customers, just drop it ever so slightly and see what their reaction is. Like, don't make it really obvious, like, oh, I'm testing this value proposition. Can you tell me what you think? And blah, blah, blah. And they'll be like, yeah, mate, sounds good. Because they don't give a shit. Like, they're like, yeah, you provide me with a service. That's great. But if you say, like,
We like to pride ourselves as being the CRM for X. And if they're like,
yeah,
"Ooh."
you're a small business. Do you think we're well suited to your needs? Like, are we the, yeah, you know, like just asking it in a roundabout way, the value proposition. Like, you know, when you look at PayPal, you could talk to a customer of PayPal and say, you know, hey, you think PayPal's safer to get paid than other ways? And they're like, oh, hell yeah, because I know, like, I'm not going to get scammed on PayPal because it's, you know, you've got all these things in place. You're like, oh, okay. How easy is it, though? You're like, oh, it's super easy. It's like, great, safe, easy, tick, tick.
Can it be easy?
Would you say it's a safer, easy way to get paid? Yeah, 100%. Perfect. So, like, test it on your customers as well. And you want to make sure that whatever value proposition you put in place, that you can easily put it across all your different marketing channels. And I think that's a really big piece as well, is that if it's super specific to a niche audience that lives on a certain platform like Reddit or some obscure Discord, then it doesn't make sense. You have to really broaden it out. So test it on internal employees, customers, and make sure you can put it across different marketing channels as well.
Yeah. The next one is to be specific and quantifiable. So if you've got any sort of measurable outcomes, statistics, things like that, that obviously it puts data behind your value proposition. So if you can put something out there that's, you know, save 20% on cost, or if you want to be really cheeky and target a specific competitor, you know, save 40% on your Salesforce costs by switching to Teamgate, for example. But it just puts that quantifiable stuff. And a lot of the big players use this, but sometimes you look at it and you're like, is it believable? So make sure it's believable and accurate, but it puts that data behind it. It's almost a way of social proofing, but it's data proofing. There you go.
So and here's the thing as well, like this is where we talk about different customer segments, is that if you've got multiple different people using your platform, then you need to have different value propositions depending on who they are and what they think is important. So if you're talking to a CFO, cutting Salesforce costs by 40%, that's like, hell yeah,
Bingo,
I want to cut that. Sales, they don't give a shit about that. They're like,
no, the end user doesn't care.
They're like,
bill.
Yeah, close more deals. That's what sales, like, earn more commission.
Yeah.
Sales care about that shit.
Cut your data entry times by 50%. Like,
yeah. Sales managers,
stop
you know,
wasting
like
your time.
Get with the analytics and Teamgate, simple and detailed overviews out of the box, right? Analytics out of the box. They're like, oh, I don't have to set up dashboards. Dashboard's already there. It's all, get all the data I need. Perfect.
Uncover your, I think we used the term, it was like uncover your performance reality or something. It was like uncover the harsh reality of your sales performance or something. Salespeople get scared of that. Shit. I don't want my sales manager.
I don't want my boss to see that performance.
But sales managers, they rub their hands together and go, "Yeah, that's great." And that leads to the next point: is tailor it to your target audience. So if you're targeting sales managers, your messaging is going to be different to if you're targeting sales reps.
And so I think that's the important thing of when you think of your value proposition remains steady, but it's how you present it to those different segments changes. So we're not saying, like the example used at Pipedrive, saying small business CRM, enterprise CRM, different landing pages for each. That's not what we're talking about. You still are targeting the same ICP. You still have the same target customers, like as in the firmographics, but the demographics change. So if you're targeting the CFO, the CEO, if you're targeting sales managers, you're targeting sales people, marketing managers, marketing people, you know, your piece of software may pertain to different types of audience, developers versus product managers. So you may serve both of those target audiences, but different things. Like the developer side, it might be like, get your product manager off your back, right? Because the last thing developers want is a product manager saying like, Andrew, have you shipped that code yet? Have you created this? Have you done this yet? Something like Jira allows product managers to go and look and go, oh, okay, cool, I've seen that it's now done, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Whereas, you know, product managers, it's like, you know, cut down time on, you know, manage your devs' productivity because they want to make sure that they're getting the most out of them. Devs just want to do dev stuff.
The last one, and probably the key one, which we've already spoken about, is test and iterate.
Yeah.
So like you just said, whether it's in a conversation on a call with a customer, whether it's on your website, you're running an A/B test.
Use VWO, test the different value props.
There's great tools out there like VWO where you can test different H1s. We've had a massive increase in trials and demos booked on our pricing page just by changing our H1 to simple parent pricing, because we saw a lot of pain with people that were coming to us from competitors that, we thought we signed up for $100 a month, and then as soon as we, the account was live and we received our first invoice, it was thousands of dollars a month. Simple changes like that can make a massive impact to your website, to your searchability and all that sort of stuff. So test and iterate. Obviously test with prospects through like your website and how that messaging resonates, but then also test with your current customer base. Go on and speak with those guys and have those conversations and see what resonates.
Yeah, 100%. There's nothing more important in this than testing and continuing to change it as you go forward. So the 3 key lessons to take away from today is lesson 1, great value proposition, customer-centric, focused on how you solve their problem, not focused on your features. Number 2, clear, specific, measurable benefits. If you can use customer case studies, that's great. They make it more persuasive. And lesson number 3, and the most important lesson, is because if you don't do this, you're just wasting your time. Test and refine your value proposition continuously. It's a constant cycle. You should be constantly thinking about how you can change it. Times change. For instance, if you're in a upward economic cycle where things are good, people are spending money, your value proposition change compared to a downward cycle where people are tight on money. So you need to constantly be testing, refining, going through.
For sure. That brings us to the end. You're going to wrap us up? I introduced us, mate, so you got to wrap us up.
Well, I usually do both, so I thought you just, but I will do it. Like and subscribe on our socials, Beers and Business Pod. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So get in there and like us on all the socials. Submit question, topics, guests you'd like to see for future episodes. Definitely hit us up. We're more than happy to oblige. And find the podcast weekly on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, 10 a.m. And make sure you tune in for the next episode.
We'll see you then. Go the mighty BUR Bulldogs.
Yeah, good luck, Andrew. Hopefully you can't with a win, mate. A win for retirement, the old fella.
That's it. Hang
Go
on
out on a high note. All right. Cheers, everyone.
See you then.